I sometimes get so furious at legislators in general, including Democrats. Now, I've made a big deal about my fury at two dinos, Democrats in name only. What's her name from Arizona and Joe Manchin from West Virginia, because of their resistance to the Build Back Better Act that Biden is trying to get passed. And this morning I heard Manchin say that it's a greater concern to him about inflation than the Build Back Better bill, which is a pretty clear indication that that son of a bitch is going to stop passage of this bill single-handedly. And the Republicans will love him forever. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if when the Orange Vomit decides to run again, they might pick Manchin to run as his vice president. But what really upsets me is when I find out that the U.S. House, not the Senate yet, but the U.S. House has passed a $770 billion weapons bill. They call it defense bill. It's weapons, mass destruction, murder, mayhem, death, killing, violence. $770 billion, $750 billion. I mean, how much longer is this going to go on? Until, the obvious answer, until we humans blow ourselves off the planet through a thermonuclear exchange of weapons or through global warming. Or, you know, the biggest contributor to global warming is not the cars on the highway, it's the U.S. military, all militaries, but especially the U.S. military. It's just madness. Now, in passing this weapons bill, $750 billion, your money, my money, that's going to be spent on destruction, not construction, destruction. Not fixing everything up in the United States, but planning on destroying every fucking thing that comes within the sights of the United States government, whoever happens to be running it at the time. A destroy better bill, not a build back better. But also in this bill, the members of the House, including Democrats, removed from the bill proposals that would have required women to register for the draft, and I'll tell you why they dropped it in a moment. They also dropped part of the bill that would have repealed the 2002 authorization of the Iraq War, which has been used over and over and over again to attack any fucking body we want to attack. And also what was dropped were proposed sanctions for a Russian gas pipeline. In other words, the House decided in a bipartisan vote, women will not be subject to the draft. The authorization for the Iraq War of 20 years ago will be continued, even though the Iraq War, calling it authorization for the Iraq War, is just horseshit. And there will be no sanctions for a Russian gas pipeline, which I'm sure will be great news to the Ukrainians. I'm being sarcastic. Now, this legislation, all the parts, were unveiled just a few hours before the vote. This is how it always works. And it put the Democratic-led Congress on track to now increase the Pentagon's budget over last year. Well, not over last year, but increase it by $24 billion over what Biden had requested. Biden is a typical American. I don't care. The Democrat, Republican, it makes no difference to me where it concerns the money spent for death and destruction. Seriously, I don't like the way the press has attacked Biden, more so than they ever attacked the orange vomit, that son of a bitch, Donald Trump. And I may get to that a little bit later in the program. But for Biden is, just your standard operating U.S. Presidential militarist leader who is willing to spend literally hundreds of billions of dollars and ultimately trillions. By the time he leaves office, like every president before him in recent U.S. political history, he will have spent or authorized the spending of trillions of dollars to destroy things. When's the last time we had a nuclear war? When's the last time we had an all-out war? And yet every goddamn year, this continues. The weapons industry, the military-industrial complex in this country that Eisenhower warned us about in 1960, for Christ's sake, is still alive and sucking the life out of this country. And by sucking the life, I mean financially, morally, ethically. It's like this country is run by destructive son of a bitches who care nothing about human life. And these Republicans who scream and fart and yell and wheeze about a mandate to wear masks or to have people vaccinated against this killer virus are the same scum who vote for all of this destruction and death and murder and mayhem and dislocation. God damn. Okay, calm down, Mike, please. Anti-war progressives were pissed off with all of this military budget. And some of these so-called anti-war progressives, bless their heart, I would place myself in that category if given a chance, but they had hoped that the Democratic Party's control of the executive branch and the legislative branch would have led to cuts to military programs after decades of watching the military, the destruction, the war, the death budget grow and grow and grow. But it was not to happen. It's never going to happen. Not under a Republican president and certainly not under a Democratic president. This is just who we are. I mean, we ought to stop bullshitting ourselves. You know, every time there's a mass killing, every time there is destruction, every time there's this or that involves the loss of life or the potential loss of life, you know, you get people, the pundits on television say, well, this is not who we are. The hell it isn't. It's exactly who we are. We ought to stop bullshitting ourselves. But I digress. The Defense Policy Bill, the $750 billion decision to spend more on death and destruction, it provides significant increases, according to the New York Times, for initiatives intended to counter China. Yes, China. And to bolster Ukraine. How are the Ukrainians going to feel good about the fact that money will be allocated to support, or not money, but sanctions will not be imposed, I should put it, on this Russian gas pipeline that will run from Russia to Germany that will enhance Putin's ability to continue his torture of the Ukrainian people. So the bill also contains money for new aircraft, new ships, all kinds of things that go boom and crash and bang and deliver death. And all of this underscores this bipartisan consensus in Congress for continuing to spend these huge amounts of federal money on death and destruction, even as these filthy Christian fascists lash Democrats for spending freely on social programs. You know, I don't understand why the Democrats don't say, okay, you filthy fuckers, here's what we'll do. We will give you your defense authorization bill. You give us our social spending authorization bill. But Democrats don't work that way. Democrats are gutless son of a bitches for the most part. They talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. I mean, come on, let's be real. Let's be fucking real here. You can't depend on Democrats to stand up to these Christian fascists and punch them right in the fucking nose, either literally or figuratively speaking. Take your pick. I'm so sick of it.
Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.